A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
We do this on a Wednesday. We like to get an update on the ups and downs, the developments, the highs and the lows, some behind-the-scenes insight from Mandy Worby, who's joining us for our Breaking News from Israel segment. Hey, Mandy, welcome back.
Hi, nice to be here. It comes around so quickly, doesn't it?
It does. It races around this time on a Wednesday. Hey, let's talk, first of all, about the ceasefire possibilities, some level of agreement with Hamas. Yeah. Give us your update.
No agreement as yet. But that's not really a surprise. Look, Bibi went to, Prime Minister Netanyahu went to America. He had, I believe it was 3 meetings in total with President Trump. They came away with no agreement because Hamas won't come to the table. They say that they will come to the table. They say that they will, consider what's being offered. But the bottom line is this: Israel will not accept any kind of an agreement that does not include the release of every hostage and that Hamas lays down its arms and that Gaza become demilitarized. Israel's not going to live with a terrorist on their doorstep anymore who's committed to wiping them out. And Hamas cannot agree to that because their ideology demands that they do that. So there isn't going to be, not that I can see.
Well, the terms of any agreement won't be rocket science, as you've just said. Hostages need to be released, but they can't release the hostages because that'll be their end.
Well, that's the only leverage they've got.
Okay, let's talk some other issues. Religious tensions in the Israeli parliament called the Knesset. Yeah. What's going on there?
Well, ever since Israel was first re-established, the very first government needed to get the agreement of the religious Jewish community. The first coalition government was a very secular left-leaning government. Every government that has been in power, that has come to power, has always been a coalition, Neil. They've never had a single party govern in their own right. And part of the agreement way back in the very beginning was that the religious community would be exempt from national service in the army. Now, the people of Israel don't like that. The majority want them to play their part. They don't see why the whole of the country has to put their own lives on the line while the religious community don't. Well, there is a religious party in the parliament, in the coalition, who are threatening to bring the government down because of this law that's been passed. Now, I must say, this is a very small section of the religious community in Israel, right? Because right now there are more religious Jews in the army and in the reserves than ever before in Israel's modern history. So it's not that they won't serve. There's a small segment that won't because they believe that they can't maintain or observe their Jewish laws and Shabbat if they're in the army. So that's the problem there. And so hopefully they won't actually bring the government down because if they do, Neil, if let's just say a far left Liberal Party or coalition came to power, they're not going to make any concessions to the religious community at all. So It doesn't make sense.
All right. So there are some, perhaps you might say, a little more spiritually minded, using that as even an excuse, but an opportunity not to serve. But the general populace is not so happy with that and thinks that everyone...
The religious community believe that it's because they study Torah all the time that that's the reason that Israel has so much success. That's what they believe. If we're not studying the Torah, that's the end of Israel. That's the religious mindset, anyway.
There's a big debate, isn't there, around all of that?
It is.
Hey, let's talk about the Houthis in Yemen, still attacking international shipping. What's an update here?
Yeah, well, see, since November 2023, so just a month after October 7, the Houthis have actually attacked over 100 international vessels in the Strait. It was just over a week ago that they sunk the Eternity Sea vessel. They've called off the search because there were 11 missing. So what had basically happened is after the attack, 10 crew were recovered alive, 4 were killed, 11 are listed as missing. But the US embassy in Yemen believe that the Houthis have actually kidnapped some of those remaining crew, but we really don't know. But They basically said they're not going to stop. The Houthis are not going to stop what they're doing. Now, the Houthis have like a rule that there is to be no communications with Israel at all. So a secret interview was done between a Houthi official, anonymous for obvious reasons, with the Israeli-owned Ynet News to ask them some questions. And they said, the Houthis have said they're not interested in a diplomatic agreement with Israel. Rather, they wish to see the removal of Israel from the Middle East. Now, when he was asked what the Houthis want from Israel, he said, quote, "We want only one thing from the Zionist entity, to leave the Arab land of Palestine." He went on to say that they believe this is an existential struggle, faith against heresy, the oppressed against the oppressors. We will prevail. We want Israel erased and Al-Aqsa Mosque purified. This is God's promise to his servants. He went on to say, we are part of the Axis of Jerusalem and will continue supporting Palestinian resistance politically, militarily and morally until our greater goal is achieved, the dismantling and destroying the Zionist entity from all fronts, Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen and Syria. And I just have to break in and say, Israel has no presence or governance or living in Lebanon, Iraq, Yemen and Syria, other than the military action they're taking now because they were attacked first. All right?
Yeah.
So I need to point that out. He goes on to say that Jews are a legitimate target for us. Soon you'll hear of our attacks. We are not ashamed of our alliance with Iran. We're proud of it. They are our model. Our relationship is one of religious and strategic brotherhood based on supporting the oppressed. It is a relationship of faith and loyalty to Ayatollahs Khomeini and Khamenei. Iran is our strategic ally in confronting the American Zionist hegemony. Iran will help us erase Israel from the map. We are building strength and preparing for the day we march on Al-Aqsa. Our slogan, Death to America, Death to Israel, is not just a slogan, it's a way of life from the beginning of the Quran until we liberate Jerusalem and return the rights of the people. And their message to Israeli citizens is, leave the land of Canaan and return to your homes.
In fact, you might be led to believe that it's a little bit vague, these sorts of hatred statements about Israel, but you've just read out some that leave it. I don't think that the Houthis want anyone to be mistaken, that they are really out for the death of Israel.
Look, Tucker Carlson did an interview with the president of Iran and he said, what about your statements, death to Israel, death to America? And he said, you've just taken them out of context. No, the Houthis that were invented by Iran, they've just made it very clear what they mean.
Okay, let's cast our eyes to the north and a little to the east. Israel militarily active in Syria. Why do you think they are interested in Syria?
Right, okay. Well, look, here's the thing. Over the past few years, well, for a long time actually, Israel has been dealing with the Iranian threat in Syria because Iran ran Syria under the Assad regime. But over the last couple of years, Israel has taken out military installations, weapons storage facilities and manufacturing sites, transportation routes, airports, chemical weapons facilities, all that belonged to or were used by the Iranian regime to funnel to Hezbollah in Lebanon. And Israel warned both Syria under the Assad regime and Iran that they would not permit that to happen. So after the Assad regime was toppled, Iran and just quietly Russia was booted from Syria, and the new regime headed by the terrorist al-Sharaa, also known as al-Jilani, began an all-out assault on various minority communities, including the Alawite Muslims, the Christians and the Druze communities. All have been attacked mercilessly by al-Sharaa's terrorist soldiers. That's what you call a real genocide. That's a real genocide. Now, it's been shocking to me to see so many nations of the world falling over themselves to become BFFs with al-Sharaa. And it also shocked me that President Trump removed al-Sharaa from the designated terror list. And I think my understanding is that what President Trump wants is to convince al-Sharaa to join the nations of the world, be a good boy, stop being a terrorist, have some shawarma and some falafel with his Jewish neighbours and just be friends.
In some sense, though, you've got to say if you want to bring reform, you've got to create an opportunity for a clean slate.
You do, but here's where This is the crux of it, and it's the same with Iran. It's the same with Hezbollah and the Houthis and Hamas. It's the ideology, and the West won't tackle the ideology. They think they can just make a deal, that they're in it for the money or for some power. They're in it for the ideology. They're doing what their God has told them to do, and they won't compromise, and that's the issue. But at the moment, Israel is actually working very hard to protect the Druze community, in particular in Syria.
Let's talk about the Druze people, because while you might have heard them, even, if you're a little older, in news reports for decades, you can hear about Druze and Druze warriors and all sorts of things like that.
Yeah.
What do you know about the Druze?
The Druze are amazing people, absolutely amazing. And they're very important. They're really significant and highly respected and revered in Israel. I mean, we've visited the Druze community when we've been in Israel to Mount Bental and the Golan Heights, Ram's Pool. We've eaten with them. They've shared their family histories and photo albums with us, and their interest and their defense of Israel. They love Israel. But basically, they're an Arab people. They speak Arabic, but they're not Muslim, even though their religion originated from Ismailism, which is kind of like a freaky branch of Shia Islam. Muslims consider the Druze to be apostate and therefore a target. Their religion is secret. Their religious leaders pass it on to upcoming religious leaders, but their practices are secret. The general public don't know about their own religion. It's very secret. You can't convert to become a Druze. You can't marry into the Druze community. It's separate. It's really a hybrid. They believe in reincarnation. Their religion is a combination of Christianity, Gnosticism, Neoplatonism, Zoroastrianism, Manichaeism, and Pythagoreanism.
There's a lot of isms
laughing
in
gear
there.
around that. But it's signified by 5 colours. Green, red, yellow, blue and white, and it's either represented in a 5-pointed star with a point in each colour or just a flag with the stripes horizontally of each colour. The Druze community hold Shaub in high regard. That is apparently the biblical Jethro, so Moses' father-in-law. They hold Noah and Abraham and Moses and Jesus and Muhammad and Adam as prophets. They consider figures Solomon the Persian, Elijah the prophet, John the Baptist, St. George, Job, Luke the evangelist, all to be mentors and prophets. So it's a real hybrid, this religion. The way they dress, you can tell straight away. The Druze men, typically the older men, they wear like these baggy black pants. They look like harem pants, and they wear a little cap on their head. They've got handlebar moustache. The women always wear a white headscarf, not a burqa or anything, but a white headscarf. They're very peaceful. They're fiercely loyal. They're hardworking people, and they're in all spheres of Israeli society. But when Israel won the Six-Day War, this is a little bit of background for the issue now, she won back her ancient land on the Golan Heights. And when that happened, the Druze community up there was split. Half were now in Israel, half were in Syria. Now, Israel immediately offered citizenship to the Druze community in the Golan Heights. Many accepted it, some slowly. It took them time because they were happy to be under Israeli governance and law because they now had freedoms and opportunities that had not existed under the Assad regime in Syria. But here was their issue. If they became citizens, then the Assad regime might punish their remaining families in Syria, punishing them as a result of the Israeli Druze now being citizens of Israel. Also, Syria kept threatening, we are going to attack and take back the Golan Heights. So if they became citizens of Israel, they'd be punished back under the Assad regime. So it took them a while, but they're citizens of Israel. They're in the army. They serve willingly of their own accord. They're in the security service like police. They're in the medical professions and they're doctors and nurses. They're in government positions. They're well integrated into Israeli society. But because the regime change in Syria has seen their Druze communities in Syria being attacked and literally butchered by the new regime's terrorist soldiers, they've been begging Israel to go in and protect their families. 30 Druze just went from Israel, crossed into Syria. The IDF brought them back to keep them safe, but they have actually been The Israeli army has been taking out al-Sharaz terrorist soldiers to protect the Druze of Syria, and that's where that sits at the moment.
Very informative, Mandy Worby, and it just serves to confirm one thing. It's very complex. With all
complex.
of these different religious groups in the Middle East, making sense of it is just not easy. But as always, wonderful insights, wonderful update. Thank you for sharing those thoughts with us again today on 2020.
Pleasure.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.